working with some of Michael Singer's teachings around the heart and the mind, and how the fear in the heart generates a lot of the thoughts in the mind. So this is part of this series, Living with an Open Heart. Why is it so hard to let that which is be? And the fact that all teachings exist in the answer to that question is what he says is it's proof that this is a very common thing. It's not something that's an individual failing on our part. Go to the root, and what you will see is that the reason that that thing, the mind, is making all that noise all the time is because you are scared to death. There's fear in the heart, and that fear expresses itself in the mind. Let's sit with that for a moment. That feels true. He's a yoga meditation teacher. So when he says the yogi does not control the world in order to stop the mind from talking, he's really talking about any of us who are on this path of inquiry and yoga and meditation. And the reason that we don't try to control the world is because it doesn't work. And actually, I would say we do try to control the world, and we find out that it doesn't work. And then what do? We have to work with our own mind. So the yogi leaves the world alone, leaves the mind alone, and with the power of witness consciousness becomes absorbed and centered within the heart. A lot of the work that we do around being in our body and working with sensations and energy is to heal the trauma that's stored in the body and to make it possible for us to go in and be present with what's here, that witness consciousness, the heart center. If there's fear in the heart, then it's going to be uncomfortable or scary for us to be there. So that's really what we're working with right now. The reason that I bring this part in, there's an experiment called the still face experiment. It was actually done about 30 or 40 years ago. This woman and her baby were playing, and then as per the experiment instructions, she just went still and she didn't respond to the baby. The PDF has the link for that experiment, or you could just look on YouTube. What they found was that the baby tried to be cute and tried to get her attention. And then when that didn't work, got distressed and kept ramping up and got quite upset and started crying. When the mother came alive again and started responding to the baby, right away the baby felt better again. That really points to how, sometimes we'll give ourselves a hard time about the insecurity that we have, or the fact that when someone looks away from us. I try not to do that when I'm working with people online, but sometimes something will happen. I'll glance away. But it's because when we look away, the person that we're looking away from, there's that vibration of there's something wrong with me. They don't want to be with me. And there's something wonderful when we're really present with each other, even on Zoom, when we're really present with each other. And also certainly in person. If we can stay present in our own body and our own heart, then that's a very different experience than if we're experiencing fear or anxiety and we can't really stay present with that. Let's pause here and bring up a memory of somebody in your life now, or somebody that's a memory, but somebody that when you think about them, you feel connected and they bring a smile to your face. These pictures here are just some examples. Could be a grandchild that you love. It could be a really good friend, somebody that you are a partner. It could be childhood friends, whatever that is. We'll take a couple of minutes here. So imagine that you're with somebody and let yourself feel into that. What does that feel like? And specifically, what does it feel like in your body? Are there sensations, energies? And often when we think about someone we care about and someone who brings a smile to our face, we have a lightening in our chest and our heart area. Our breath might get a little bit easier, smoother. Try to resist the urge to have it be complicated. With anybody that we care about, there's complications. It's not 100% perfect all the time. Just somebody who's good enough. Your connection is good enough that you feel warmth, and it brings a smile to your face when you think about them. And then bring to mind a time when you didn't feel included. The complications we have with relationships, it might be the very same person, or it might be somebody else. This probably isn't as hard to have come to mind, but let's take a few minutes with this as well. Let that move to the background, that person who brings a smile to your face. Feel into this, a time when you felt not included. It might be something kind of subtle. It might be very obvious. Somebody told you they didn't want you there. Or it might have just been that icky feeling of nobody's looking at me, nobody's smiling, nobody wants me here. And notice how it feels. What changed in the energy, what changed in your breath. You might notice there's a flight energy in your body. You're feeling restless or jittery, or maybe your mind went off to something else. You might feel kind of shut down or numb. You're not really thinking about it anymore. You might have an anger response as well. When we think about not being included, and we've all had that experience many times, we're often flashed back to the emotional feeling states of childhood. And then we do something, our nervous system comes in to help us not feel so distressed. Let's give that a couple of minutes so we can watch that happening. You could go back and forth between the person who brings a smile to your face and the memory of a time when you felt not included, or you could stay with this one. How is that showing up as energy or sensation in your body? Are there thoughts in your mind that are coming in? There could be core deficiency beliefs like, well, I'm so boring, I'm not surprised that nobody wanted to hang out with me. And that kind of self talk or the inner critic isn't helpful, and it's not true. That might be some of what's coming up. We can notice that. We're very sensitive. We don't have a broad tolerance for feeling excluded or for feeling anything other than we're going to be safe and included. We really need that for survival. If you were to go back to that person who you feel connected with and notice again, maybe some of the energy that was just in your body started to soften. Your breath might have gotten a bit more easy. The words in italics are from Michael Singer. He says, once you see how sensitive your heart is, you will understand why your life is difficult. And that why your mind gets so weird, as he says, we have all of these thoughts in the mind. Do we develop a way to manage that? We develop a way to control how much we're exposed to that. We develop how deep it goes, defenses so it doesn't cut us too deep. We manipulate, we control, we try to make the world a safer place. And that's normal, that's natural, of course we do. And it doesn't really work. The sensitivity of the heart There's so many kind of new age slogans that actually have a lot of wisdom in them. And one of them is around, when you block the pain, you block the joy. What we're trying to work with is allowing ourselves to have an open heart, but not allowing our nervous system or our inner critic or the emotional flashbacks to take over. So he's talking about how when we're able to go into our heart, harmonize with it, and move away from the fear or settle the fear and move into the deep peace and love that exists in our open heart. That's the real healing. So we have a very sensitive heart. We have a nervous system imperative to be included. That's how we survive. We have a lot of distress when we're not. And then our mind really gets involved with a lot of catastrophic thinking or ruminating or compulsive thinking. When we go into fight, flight, or freeze, we have a different experience with each of those with other people. If you tend to go into a fight response, you probably have a lot of relationship chaos. People yell at you as well, or they're afraid of you, so they cower in the corner. You might be putting people into a flight or a freeze response with your anger, with your fight response. If you're in a shutdown, it can be very frustrating for the people around you to try and connect with you. So it's not like one of these is better than the other. It's just that they all have an impact. When we come back into regulation, then we can come back into this is normal. This is how it works. It's not how I want to have it work going forward forever. But this is actually how the nervous system works and how the human brain works. So it's not my fault that I have a nervous system. Sit with that for a moment. I'm not suggesting that we don't take responsibility for what we do when we're activated into fight, flight, or freeze, or to blame it on somebody else. I'm just saying these are primal processes that go on. And as we're more aware of it, we increase our regulation, we increase our capacity to stay with the sensitivity in the heart for the good and the joyful and the connected experiences, as well as when we have a difficult experience. Not trying to change anything in particular right at the moment. Just notice what your response is to that. What does it feel like now in your heart area, in your heart center, your emotional heart center in particular? And being open hearted also does not mean that you're without boundaries. It doesn't mean that people get to step on us. It means we're more regulated more often, or we can come back into regulation and we can notice the patterns. If we're on a rant in our mind about that jerk, blah, 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 it might be true that that person's acting in a really bad way. And how am I going to work with that? That is the actual truth of the world. A lot of people are doing things that are not fair, that are not ethical, that are causing harm. And how can we work with our own heart in such a way that we can stay open hearted, at least within ourselves, and then we'll be more able to stay in touch with our own humanity and that of other people as well. Let's take a couple of breaths, maybe do a couple of cyclic sighs. So that deep double inhale. And then a long, slow exhale through the mouth, like you're breathing out through a thin straw. And let go of any tension in your neck and shoulders, the front and the back of your chest. One more big, big double inhale. So again, these are Michael Singer's words. The root of the mind is the heart. In addition to working, and we have many tools to work with thoughts in the mind, we have many tools to work with regulating our nervous system. And what he's saying, how do we work with the heart? Well, we treat our tender heart, our sensitive heart, like a mother would work with her child. We hold it, we're loving with it. This is not the real life mother, this is the mothering energy. How we would work with our own inner child, our own sensitive heart. And we don't expect that other people are going to do that work for us, even though connecting with somebody else can be very helpful in terms of healing the heart and having that experience of heart connection. And we're an adult, and whatever happened to us during our development as a child isn't on somebody else to fix. It's up to us. And the way that we do that is we connect with our younger selves, our younger parts, with kindness, with compassion, with love. Let's sit with that for a minute or two and feel into that. Connect with that younger self. Or maybe it's not coming up as a younger self. Maybe it's connect with your sensitivity, with the sensitive heart. And sometimes what will happen then is a memory will come up of a time when we felt harmed or excluded. Somebody was riding roughshod over our tenderness, our sensitivity. And we've all had many, many experiences like that. If a memory like that comes up, then we could sit with that. How would you connect with that younger part of you that felt that had that experience? Depending on the age, you might put them on your lap and hug them. You might comfort them, rock them. You might talk with them if they're a little bit older. Take a few minutes to settle into that. Connect with the sensitive heart. Let your adult self be fully present. You might reflect on how that feels in your body, but also what is your experience with this? Would you say my heart is usually open? No, not so much. More often I go into a flight or I shut down or I get angry at the other people. We have a complicated relationship with this and we don't have to be perfect. Take a moment to notice what are your usual responses, what's your usual experience. And that will be different from person to person for sure. And this is not work we need to do perfectly. We don't need to do it and kind of get it all organized. It's an ongoing process of connection, of care, passion. Notice what it is that comes to mind for you of how you could work with this going forward. How could you work with the sensitive heart and to be more open hearted, to be more connected in your heart, to see the patterns of fear and to allow those to heal?